Councilors, candidates, candidates, we'll ask you to take the table in the queue. So we're just going to start the meeting first. Before you take the chairs, we just want to there's a procedure we would like to do. Thank you. Can we do this salute to the flag? Yep. You have to stand up. It's going to do the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Councilor Recupero?
Yeah.
Councilor Teneri Garcia?
Present.
Councilor Robinson?
Here.
Councilor Taylor?
Here.
Councilor Lopez?
Here.
Councilor Vega? No? Councilor Brown?
Present.
Councilor Vidal? Councilor De Jesus?
Present.
And Councilor Judy Garcia?
Present.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 members present. You have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Call the meeting.
Like to call the meeting, Mr.
Please call a special meeting of the Chelsea City Council for Monday, December 12, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. in the City Council Chambers, 500 Broadway, Chelsea, Massachusetts, for the following purpose. Salute to the flag, roll call of members to interview and present questions of the 3 finalists for the Council at Large vacancy. Brian Heidelberg, Joan Cromwell, Stanley Tuisi. Also nominations and appointments for the position of Council at Large.
Do I have a motion on the floor?
Robinson, accept and file.
Under suspension, if there are no objection.
Councilor Robinson, accept and file under suspension.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
I'm waiting to be acknowledged.
I have to read, I would like to, before I recognize you, I'd like to read a letter on behalf of the council
Okay.
prior to recognizing. I'd like to read a letter from the City Council. Apologies. The City Council on its February 5th, 2022 voted to apologize to the candidates, to the public for the open seat that participated in the meeting of the appointment. We wanted to apologize to all those that felt or had an understanding that there was some type of things that was doing wrong or going wrong. There was no notion to this appointment that the seat had been done unfairly or in secret. It was done in error in a violation of the open rule law, not only because of what happened, because we did not put our names on our ballots. We apologize for this, and in error we have corrected it. We worked with our legal counsel, we have corrected it, not only by placing the final tally of votes, but each and every council member's name and votes are on our website. This was the first time in 20 years since I've been a city councilor that we had more than 5 candidates that was interested in a vacancy on the city council or any board. In fact, we had 17 for this vacant seat. At our subcommittees, we invited the public. At those meetings, they could have spoke. Our intentions tonight are, as we stated in our subcommittees, we were to enter candidates, dwindle them down to a final number, which became 3, interview them in public, which is a public forum tonight, which will be broadcast live, ask them questions, give them an open statement, give them a closing argument of why they should be considered by this council to be selected for the vacancy. We have done that. The charter requires us as city council members to fill the vacancy, not the public or the voters. So we apologize for the actions, but we've tried to do as best as we can during this process, and we also made all this information available on our website. If you'd like to see the votes, the tally, sheets of those, it's publicly on our website, and it has been since December 5th. Thank you. Chair, recognize Councilor Vidal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to add, and I don't want to hash up anything from the past. We ended with 3 candidates based on 3 different methods of voting. some people ranked choice, some people voted for the top three. So how we honor that when we really weren't even using the same parameters of gauging who we were voting for is beyond me. Nonetheless, we are here. And seeing as though we are trying to be transparent, I would ask and make a motion that we open the floor for public speaking in case anybody wants to make any comments. I understand that the charter states that it's up to us, the city councilors, to appoint. But for me, as one of only two active at-large city council members here, it's important for me to hear from the public what it is that they want me to look for, if in fact they want to speak. I don't know that they do. But I just feel for the sake of transparency and including folks, it's only fair that we open the floor. It could be just a couple of minutes to allow the public to share their thoughts about what they would hope we are looking for when it comes to appointing a city councilor.
Thank you, Councilor. I'm going to rule that motion out of order.
I'd like to challenge the chair.
Yes, sir. You'd like to challenge the chair?
Or at least tell me why you're ruling it out of order.
Well, I don't believe I have to give you an explanation. I believe it's out of order. So I'll
Okay,
just
then
leave it
I'd
at
like
that.
to challenge the chair and move it to a roll call vote as to whether or not we should have public speaking.
Mr. Clerk, I ask you to call a roll call on the challenge of the chair.
Mr. President, may I make a comment?
There's no discussion on challenge.
All right, we're going to have a roll call to uphold the chair's decision of ruling the motion out of order. A yes vote would uphold the chair's decision to rule it out of order. A no vote would be not to rule it out of order, and then you could debate it.
Mr. Clerk, we were advised specifically by the city solicitor on
Yeah,
this specific
there's
matter.
I'm sorry, Councilor, we can't speak on once the vote goes.
Okay.
Can you clarify the vote? There seems to be
Clarify the
some
vote. A
confusion.
yes vote would uphold the chair's decision to rule it out of order. A no vote would be not to uphold the chair's decision, and then you have the motion before you.
So a no vote, can you explain that again? A no vote?
A no vote would be to deny the chair's decision and have the motion before you for debate. A yes vote would be to uphold the chair's decision, and it's out of order. Okay?
So no for public speaking, yes for no public speaking.
Okay? So,
Yes, that's
Want to start it?
yes.
Councilor Recupero?
What do you, okay, I understand what you're saying, so what do you want to rule?
You have,
Yes is out of order, no is not out of order. No.
Councilor Teneri Garcia?
Yes.
Councilor Robertson?
Yes.
Councilor Taylor?
No.
Councilor Lopez?
No.
Councilor, let me see, Vega is absent. Okay, Councilor Brown?
yes.
Councilor Vido?
No.
Councilor De Jesus?
Yes.
And Councilor Judy Garcia?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. The motion to uphold the chair's decision out of order is passed. The next item on the agenda would have to be the
Yeah.
position.
So I'm going to ask if the chair will take the 3 envelopes that's here, stand up, and just move them around. And I'm going to ask the 3 candidates to please approach the podium and select one of the envelopes. Inside of the envelopes, there'll be 3 numbers, 1 to 3. On the first round of questioning, you would go as your number indicates.
Just take
Who's going to get the grand prize?
Excuse me, Councilor.
anyone, that's all. Okay. And Brian, thank you. Tell them why they're drawn into the positions.
Yeah, I did. I told you.
Who has?
So I'm sorry, candidates, after that, you can take the seats at the table.
For Brian,
But if you like, if you could just show us your number,
number 3.
let it be known that Councilor former Councilor Tweezy has 3.
Yep.
Joan Cromwell has 1.
Right, and Brian 2.
Brian has 2. Okay, so that is just only for the first round of questioning. At this point, we're going to ask you, you have up to 5 minutes to give us an opening statement. You can tell us about yourself. You can tell us what you want. And after that, the city council members will be asking questions to you. You all will have equal opportunity to answer those questions. Each of you will answer each question. You'll have 2 minutes to respond to that. The first round would go to Ms. Cromwell. The second will be Mr. Heidelberg, and so on. The next question will be second, and then third, and the third question will go to Mr. Truizi. So we don't always have everyone answering the first question first. So that's a fair method, and that's why we wanted to do it openly and let you pull that selection. So thank you all for being here. Again, congratulations on being the finalist for this very important last interview for the selection to fill the vacancy at the at-large seat. We are here. We're delighted to hear from you. We're grateful that you were able to make it, and we will just start off. First, we'll ask Ms. Cromwell if you would, again, you have up until 5 minutes. Our clerk will be timing, and I would go like that when it's 30 seconds so I don't interrupt you. You have up to, again, 5 minutes to tell us about yourself or whatever you would like to make in an opening statement.
Okay.
You're on the clock.
Good evening, and thank you, honorable members of the council, members of the audience, and those watching from home. Thank you for the opportunity to come to continue to be here. Thank you for this opportunity for allowing me to continue to be here with you in the process to fill the vacant seat on the City Council. I know with a fair, conscience, and democratic approach, you will decide which of us, Mr. Troisi, Mr. Brian Heidelberg, or myself, will be selected. My name is Joan Cromwell, lifelong resident of Chelsea, worked in Chelsea Public Schools for 16 years as a school nurse and then a public health nurse to the City of Chelsea, and continue in the nursing profession at a state level. I have a degree in psychology, a degree in nursing, and public health administration experience at a master's level. I am president of CBC, Chelsea Black Community, where under my leadership we have accomplished great strides and continue to provide opportunity with access and availability for all members in pocket neighborhoods in our community. We have instrumentally advocated and fulfilled positions for 2 DEI offices, one in Chelsea Public Schools as well as within the municipality. We remain at the forefront of COVID initiatives and workforce development, but strongly advocate for civic, social, health, safety, education, and housing advocacy. I continue to prevail all along through collaboration and building partnerships with municipality, organizations, churches, businesses, and residents.
Bless you.
It is with honor and great humility that I respectfully believe I am best positioned to serve on the council in this capacity during this interim. Be assured I will do the best I can to serve our community and its members by contributing to ensure local community continue to run as smoothly and efficiently as possible, with all members able to continue to access the services and programs they need to live safe and healthy lives. During the next year, I would like to work beside you as a councilor at large, where I will represent all neighborhoods and members across our multi-ethnic communities to listen, talk, and empathize. This is where I believe I have some advantage over my contenders in terms of being able to listen, to respond, and to respond to residents in both English and Spanish. Also, look beside you to your fellow councilors. Do you see diversity? Is this body reflective of the community you serve? There is approximately 8% of blacks here in Chelsea. Within that percentage, there is a historically marginalized group, Black women. We are not visible among this council. Representation matters, even if it's only for 11 months. In reference to experience in areas of parliamentary rule or law, this is not my first rodeo. Over the past 8 years, I have served on the Planning Board and Zoning Board and served on the State DPH Diversity Board. I have worked with great individuals as chairs, one being Janice Tatarka, who I respect and applaud. She is the chair on the zoning board. Under her leadership, we board members are quite fluent and familiar with parliamentary rule. Also, as president of CBC, a nonprofit organization where all meetings are followed under Robert's Rule of Order to assist an assembly to accomplish the work at hand. So please, do not be swayed by such catchwords as the inexperienced or vice versa, the expert. And do not undermine my experience. I am proficient in parliamentary rule. Yet, as much as I am aware of wherever two people meet, Robert's Rule is the guide, there is one thing that trumps. It is the voices of our neighborhoods and heard. It is the voice of our neighborhoods are heard, and representation matters. Also, none of us are experts in parliamentary or Robert's Rule, which is why our great city solicitor is present to advise you at all of your meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one second. Okay, Mr. Hadelberg.
So my name is Brian Heidelberg. I live at 18 Franklin Street. And as I was thinking about how to introduce myself here, it's a little bit of a difficult challenge because there's really two audiences. There's the public, which is in many ways the most important audience for an at-large councilor. That's who needs to be represented. And then there's the council, which in many ways is the most important audience because you guys have the vote. So as I thought about what I wanted to say, there's really two pieces to it. In terms of the public, I guess I would say, you know me. I've served for 10 years as a counselor. I've spent almost that much time not being a counselor. Sometimes that helps too. You know me through my wife, who's the principal at the Kelly Elementary School. You know me through my kids, who are always running around on the streets with the track team here. You know me through Chelsea Rotary. You know me through my service on the zoning board. You know me through my service on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee. You know me through my general activities in the city and walking around in circles with my dog. So I think you know that I'll be accessible, I'll be available. I view this role as one, it's really a pinch-hitting role. I don't believe that you can come in as an appointee and have a tested mandate that you've tested with the voters and you're sure people truly want. I believe it's really my place to function as an efficient public steward, as someone who will work with the public, who will listen to the voices that come. I believe you know I'm accessible, I'm available. My cell phone is easily out there on the internet, and I still get the calls. And, I'll be here. Anything I can do to help, I believe in making things better and want to do that. For the council, I think there's a little bit of an interesting decision to make. I think you know me both by reputation and by experience. I'm someone who works with people, and I think that's important at this time. I believe in making things better, and I believe that making things better essentially involves being for something. I don't believe in defining myself by being against. And what that means for each of you as you're moving forward on the things that move the city forward is that I will put the time in and I'll find a way to get to yes on things. I'll find a way to help move things forward, to be productive, to be positive, and to put the time in. That's really the core of what I have to say. I think there's many ways in which basically I want to do the work because I believe in the city, I believe we're going a good direction, and I would like to be a part of helping that continue. And at the same time, I view this as, frankly, it's only about 20 meetings. It's something where it's important to do the work, to put the energy in, and to execute to make things happen because it's not a long-term role. I do not intend to use this as a platform. I do not intend to run for election at the end of this term. And so I view it simply as an opportunity to try to help move the city in a positive direction. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chuizi?
Honorable members of the City Council and the public who are here this evening and those watching TV, my name is Stanley Troisi. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Chelsea. When this seat became open, I thought it was an excellent opportunity for me to serve the community again. I've served this community in the past for over 25 years, more than a third of my adult life. Like, I'm going to echo what my former colleague says, this is not to be used as a stepping stone. I'm not running for office next time. I will not run for office. But I believe I could be a caretaker for this seat. What I offer to this council is that I can step in right away and perform all the tasks and duties with no training required. I bring to this council vast knowledge of how the government works, a historical knowledge of how we started after receivership and how we got to this point in time. And again, just in general, a great institutional knowledge of the city, a great institutional knowledge of the government of the city. As with any job, I'm sure you want to get the most qualified person. The two candidates on my right are great candidates, and if I was sitting there, I would have no problem voting for Brian or Ms. Problem, not at all. So I know it's going to be a tough choice. I believe I'm qualified because of the education I received at Boston State College, where I have a bachelor's degree in political science and law enforcement. I graduated from Chelsea High School. I've also was accepted into National Honor Society while at Boston State College, the National Honor Society for Political Science. I was also chosen Student of the Year in 1978 for the Law Enforcement Department. In addition, I've completed courses at the Northeast School of Industrial Relations, which were run by the Catholic Labor Guild. I did this while I was a shop steward at the MBTA for Local 589. Part of the courses that I took included collective bargaining, grievance procedures, but most importantly, I took courses in parliamentary procedure. And when those courses were completed, I was accepted as a member of the American Association of Parliamentarians. My experience in government includes 5 years of the board as a member of the Board of Aldermen, which was in effect before this city went into receivership. In my second year on the Board of Aldermen, I was elected president of that board. I spent 15 years on the city council and 3 years as a member of the Board of Assessors. While the 15 years on the city council, in that time I was elected president by my peers, by my colleagues, 6 times. I like to believe that my colleagues did that because they knew I was fair, they knew I understood the process, and they knew that when I was president, things would get done in an efficient and effective manner. I guess my career, I like to think my career in city government was marked with leadership, competence, preparedness on issues, and transparency, and most importantly, integrity. In addition to being a leader on the city council, being elected president, I can recall in 2000 I was asked to serve on the first charter review committee, which had a lot of work to do because from the time the charter was implemented to that first year, we saw a lot of problems. There were 15 members on that committee. They unanimously, 15-0, elected me to be the chairman of that committee. I like to think, again, because it was of my fairness, and they had to get a job done, and they wanted to get it done efficiently. I was also on the Charter Review Commission in 2010, a year after I left office, and I was appointed by the city manager at that time, and he thought that my experience on the Charter Review Commission would be very helpful. I don't want to go into some of the highlights of my legislative career, and if somebody really wanted to sit here and listen, I could give you 10 or 15. But finally, we talk about community service, and there are all types of communities in this city. If I get 1 minute,
30 seconds.
I'll wrap this up. I spent my last 10 years of my working life at the Chelsea Soldiers Home for a group of people that I feel vastly underserved, and that is veterans in need. Being a veteran, I took that job at less pay than I was making at a foreman job. I started a lot of programs under the leadership of Mike Reska. I worked for veterans who had previously come out of problems with drug and alcohol addiction, veterans who had all kinds of financial troubles, and those 10 years were the most satisfying 10 years I ever spent. I did like to say one thing, and there is a counselor here who works on the Soldiers' Home, and I just want to say one thing. Our mission was noble, and I applaud Councilor Lopez for all the years he's put in
Councilor.
service to this Chelsea Soldiers' Home. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Former Councilor. Former Councilor. So, thank you all for that introduction of yourself and the background, your credentials, your desires, your willingness. Comes to the second part of our interview. Now we have council members. I believe most, if not all, will be asking questions. Each candidate will get equal time to answer that question as well, if they feel. Councilors.
Where do we go, in order?
No, you can just,
Anybody can ask any questions?
yes, sir. Councilor, you're on the floor. Councilor Recupero, we have the time. You want to state your question in the mic, please?
Okay.
To the
My
candidates.
question, do I direct it to all three or to each
To the
one
candidates.
individually?
I stated, to the candidates.
Okay, I'll ask all three the same question. Makes it easier for everybody. My question is a simple one. It's not a highly complicated question. What do you intend to do? Doesn't qualifications, I hear a lot of things, qualified, not qualified, but I believe the only qualification you need in this job is to be fair and equal and impartial to everybody. So, what is, if you get this position, what is
You intend to
your greatest achievement that you want to accomplish for the people of our city? Anybody can start any.
No, thank you. That would start with second person. Which
So
is
I'm
Ms.
easy on
Craddock.
this one. I don't think it's real complicated. I want the city to be great. I want to move things forward in the city. I want to do the work to help all the pieces of all the decisions that are made go well. It's not real complicated. I think you know we've worked together before. I think you know that I am honest, I am fair, I am impartial, I do move things forward cleanly, and you know I put the time in. I can spend time talking more about it, but I think it's pretty straightforward.
I'm sorry, Councilor asked me. Councilors, remember, each counselor, each candidate prior to the next question get the chance to answer the question. We stated that.
Same question?
Yes.
Same question.
It is very simple. I came to every meeting I've ever attended here, well-prepared, knowing the issues, and always trying to bring that knowledge in to work with other counselors. As a counselor, I think the number one priority of any counselor is to make sure that the public safety is the number one priority in your mind. People want to have a safe community. Cicero was a Roman senator a couple hundred years before Christ was born. That was his motto. Let the safety of the public be the number one priority. I will never vote to underfund the police or the fire. I will always make sure they have the tools necessary to make this community safe. As a city councilor, and with the experience I have, I find it imperative that we do everything possible to stay in a strong financial position. And I will work, like I did with City Manager Guy Sandegate, City Manager Jay Ash. I never had the pleasure to work with Mr. Ambrosino. Work to make sure that the city stays on strong financial footing. And finally, I believe as a city council, it is necessary for us to get input from the community and to make sure that we provide the basic services that government is asked to provide. I want to have streets that are clean. I want to have streets that aren't cracked and broken. I want to have traffic lights that work. I want to make sure these things are done. We owe that to the city, people of the city. And I want to do everything I can when I see waste in government to make sure that the tax dollars are spent on those basic services and not wasted. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, just when I raise my hand, that means you have 30 seconds left. So we
If I
want to
may
be
ask-
fair to everyone. You were fine, but I just wanted to.
How long do we have to answer the question?
2 minutes.
2 minutes?
Yeah. You had. You can ask the timekeeper.
was
You had 2
five.
minutes. Mr. Timekeeper.
You had
can-
12 seconds left.
Yeah. So you said you were finished. That's why I just wanted to reiterate that. Ms. Cromwell.
Yes. How will I serve? I will continue to serve as I have been serving, day in and day out, focusing on all of the concerns of our issue. I think we're in a pretty good shape. Economic development is booming, but we also have to remember the residents. I think we have to keep focused on how I will serve in terms of keeping in mind disparities we face as a gateway community. I will serve to focus on as a community of color, as a Latinx community, as a Black, white, Muslim, Christian, Jewish community, as an LGBTQIA community, as a community of people that have been economically disenfranchised, to name a few. Lastly, over the next few years, next year, I would like to work beside you as your fellow councilor, working as a body. Just thinking about all areas, not only safety, because there's housing, there's food security, there's public health, there's education. There's so many areas that need our concentration on them, not just public safety. So I think that it's imperative to serve in all areas and be able to come to the table as a body to move forward in helping all of the areas that were mentioned. But public safety is important, so is public health, so is housing, so is education, so is us functioning as a gateway community. It's imperative that we keep this in mind. We're not serving in the year 2000 or 2008. This is 2023, and changes have been are amongst us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll go to our next question from our next colleague, council member, and Mr. Tuizi, you'll be the first to answer that question, and Councilor Lopez is next.
Yeah, this question is for Brian and Senator Troy said almost the same question for John. For Brian and Stanley, you have been in the council before. I'm curious, what will you do different this time around to serve the community if you become a city councilor? And for Joanne, the same. What will you bring? Yeah. Yes. What would you bring new to help us?
I'm sorry, Councilor. If we can get you, please, to speak into your mic. There you go. Thank you.
Do you hear my question?
I believe so. If this body elects me to fill the last 11 or 12 months of Councilor Avellaneta's term, I'm not going to do a lot of things differently than I did before. I think it's vital that any city councilor here comes to a meeting well prepared, knowing what's on the agenda. I also, when I was on the city council, we used to get a lot of information from Mass Municipal Association and a bunch of other communities and stuff. And I like to take good ideas from other communities and implement them in Chelsea. A good idea is a good idea. It doesn't matter who puts it before you. A good idea that works in Saugus, a good idea that works in Watertown, and if I see it and read about it, I would like to bring that forward to this city. But otherwise, I think it's just important as a city council to be well prepared, to know the issues, and to do the best you can each and every meeting, and to represent this community in the best way you possibly can.
And I think you'll find my answers
I'm
very
sorry,
similar.
Mr.
Oh, you want me to wait?
Sorry, yeah, we just want to get the timer.
No problem. I don't
Be
usually take
fair.
that
We
long.
want to be fair. You're ready, sir.
You ready? Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you got a very different answer. If there's one thing I am, it's consistent. I mean, I always joke my emotional line's kind of flat, you know? So I think it's true, you know? If you watch me before, you know, I served, I was reelected, I was reelected, I was reelected, I was reelected. I think people generally agreed that I was acting responsibly and doing things well. I would bring that to the table again. So I don't have a great deal of change of personality in my life, really. So I guess I would bring the same things I brought before, and I believe they were helpful to the city, and I would hope they would be helpful again. I don't know that there's really that much time to put an enormous amount of new concepts on the table to be vetted and tested. I think there's an enormous amount of time I need to spend personally really catching up on some of the internal pieces. There's a lot of energy I need to put into catching up on some of the financial backdrops, some of the, like for instance, I don't know my staffing counts right now. I don't know where head count has gone up, where it's gone down, where overtime's gone up, where it's gone down. There's a lot of time I need to put into catching my knowledge base up. But in terms of my fundamental responses and reactions to things, I think you'll find I'm the same person I've always been.
Mrs. Cromwell, whenever you're ready, just let us know.
Oh, was that question to
Yes.
me as well?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, what will you bring new for this council? Something that we are here, but we want to learn from you also. Bring to us and to the community.
Sure. I think I'll bring the same tenacity and dexterity to work with members of this council and to help Chelsea make more inroads functioning and focusing not only on economic development, but...
If you can just bring the mic a little closer,
Oh.
because we're being recorded.
Oh, you can't
and
hear
we
me?
wanna hear- Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Just the mic, I'm sorry.
All right.
There you go.
Better?
Yes.
Oh, that's in stereo.
Yeah, just sorry about that. Sorry.
So as I was saying, what I will bring to this council is ability to work cross the aisle and to work together as a body and to focus on getting the work done. Because at the end of the day, what's undone here is undone in the community, and I think it's very important to start here at the top and basically show ourselves as one body, working together for the betterment of the whole community. So I have not been a counselor in prior years, but I have been at the forefront in the ground in the city doing the work, and then coming to the counselor with that work. So I think that my experience and my track record has been responsible. I'm a woman of integrity, respect, and basically would serve with you to, to come together, not to draw apart. And I think one of my colleagues over here had said that no idea is a bad idea, and to bring good ideas, and just basically to work together as one body. And not a lot of changes in 11 months, I understand that. And I, too, don't have any real ambitions on continuing. We'll see how it goes for the next 11 months. But definitely to work with you as a body. Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so the next round of questions are coming, and Ms. Cromwell, you're going to lead the first question, unless the council warrant, because she just ended, but we're going in circles where you keep following up. So unless one of the councilors would like to direct the question to one of the candidates first, we had decided to try to be fair by going around. Unless you, huh?
We should stay in order.
Yeah, that's what I said, okay. All right. Councilor Taylor. Yes.
So my question is, and I know you only have 2 minutes, so, you don't have to give too detailed of an answer, but if you could let us know what you think that are 3 real problem areas that need addressing in this city. It doesn't necessarily have to be, public safety or some sort of issue. It can be situations as well. So just from your perspective, the 3 biggest things that you could do on this council to address those problems, what are they and what would you do?
She's on the clock. You're all set. You're ready.
I think the three, right now I have two at the top of my head, so while I'm speaking, I'll think about a third. But I think the first is reaching all people in the community, reaching all the pocket neighborhoods in the community, so we really, truly believe that everyone's voice is heard and everybody is accounted for. I think that with a lot of, COVID and post-COVID and pandemic, there's certain groups of people that, and sometimes the majority is heard, but there's also pocket neighborhoods and members in our community that aren't heard and need to be addressed and seen, and their issues and concerns be addressed as well. I also think that food security is a huge issue, and I believe that I think we need to continue to focus on that, but in a more dignifying way. The long lines of hundreds of people and children watching their parents standing in these lines for bags of food, it's not appropriate and it's undignifying. So just thinking about how we could be more creative in terms of sustaining food securities and implementing programs for such, but also to take away the enabling part of that and just provide some pride and dignity. The third issue I would say is health disparities. I think it's huge. That was fast. I think health disparities is a real concern as well. There's many ailments that are killing our residents that are predominantly in Black and Hispanic communities and minority communities. So it's a great concern to focus on health disparities and allowing more information on access to care, availability, and being accountable for those.
Thank you. Okay.
So again, I agree with a lot of what Joan said here. I think the overarching concept I'd put out there is we want to help people do better. And that's a big umbrella that covers the three things I wrote down were housing, health, and family stability. Those are things that are very hard for council to directly impact. Those are things that we always need to be trying to indirectly impact and to do everything we can to essentially help people. I think that the basic blocking and tackling of making progress on those things is very fundamental. I think it comes down to the basic divisions of government, and this is why it's set up that way. I think we need to start with the finances. We need to start making sure the money is in place. We need to start by making sure we husband resources well. Then I think we need to use those resources wisely. This is why we've talked about public safety. This is why we have departments in the city set up the way they are. And, the overarching theme needs to be just reach everyone who needs help and help them do better. So.
Thank you. Mr. Tweedy? Didn't answer questions next.
Councilor Taylor, those are great questions. And one thing, my answers won't be so, high in the sky type answers. Things that really bother me and bother everybody in this city is the traffic today. I would like to work on a lot of issues in traffic. I think it's a shame when I leave my house on Springville Ave at 6 o'clock and get to City Hall, which is less than a mile probably, and it takes me 22 minutes. I think that's wrong. I think people going to work in the morning shouldn't have to leave at 5:30 in the morning to go to Boston to get into their job at 7:30. I think that's wrong. I think we often as city council, sometimes we think we can do so much. We'll put in a resolution about a war in XYZ country or something that's happening. And that's not the function. Let's try and fix the problems we can fix. One thing I think from a personal point of view is we still have to remain quite vigilant. I came from a time when the city went into receivership. Why? Because we weren't spending our money efficiently. Why? Because there was corruption. Why? Because there was nepotism. There was all these problems. And I think it's important that we as a city council become watchdogs and remain vigilant and don't fall back. And finally, I'd like to see capital improvements increased. One of the things I like about capital improvement, when you show other businesses or communities that you're willing to invest in your own city, they'll come in and invest with you. That's it.
Thank you. Any counselors over here? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor De Jesus, you're next.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, and thank you. Thank you guys for your initiative. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the history you have with our community, and also the great work that you're currently doing in our community. My question, it kind of piggies off of my fellow colleague over here who asked an amazing question, and you guys responded with some of the needs that you see in the community. My question is about the budgeting and the finance, right? Because if we have 11 months that you guys will be stepping into the seat for, you're right, maybe not a lot of things could be resolved, but you will be here for the phase of budgeting. And I want to ask you, you have this opportunity to evaluate how funds have been used and will be used in this next term. What skills, what strengths, what experiences will you be bringing to this body to make these evaluations based on the 3 categories you just mentioned are the biggest needs in the community?
I'm sorry, I'm keeping up track. I believe Councilor Heidelberg, is it his? Councilor Heidelberg, I believe it's your first shot at this one.
So if I roll back to my own history, I've served as the chair of the Finance Committee several times. I served, and the body nominated me to the Massachusetts Municipal Association's Finance Committee. I have a great deal of experience working within the city budget and trying to make things run cleanly and smoothly. So I feel like I have the tools to understand things, but I need to get my feet on the ground again. You know, I have not worked through the city's budget recently, so my own personal first step is to spend an awful lot of time going through the detail and making sure I have my feet on the ground. I mean, it's kind of where everything starts. The budget process usually has already started in terms of setting priorities for the next year. I'm sure that the city manager is beginning to pull things together and have something to present to council probably very soon. The process of influencing those priorities should have already started. And it should be a situation where you guys have collectively begun to communicate the things that need to happen. And because I'm aware of that, that's part of why I look at it as largely this is a term of supporting and working to basically move forward together on those priorities, because they should be largely set. So then essentially it's nuts and bolts from there. It's working to make sure that T's get dotted, I's get crossed, and no one gets ripped off. So that's my general approach.
Mr. Tweedy.
If there's one thing that I would bring to this position, it really is a strong background and a great knowledge of municipal finance. I was a member of the Board of Assessors back in 1989. They gave us 3 years to finish one course. I finished the course in 3 months. In the next 2 years, I was a Massachusetts accredited assessor. I understand how the tax rate is formed. I understand about the overlay. I understand how the cherry sheet works and how we get our money. What's important is in the budget document, which is really saying what we consider extremely important and how we're going to spend our money. The first thing we have to do is make sure the money is spent wisely and efficiently. Second, we have to make sure that that money goes to all the people in this city to make them safe and secure, and to do the best we can to provide the services necessary. So I know as a member of the City Council, and like the speaker to my right, I was chairman of the Finance Committee more times than I can count, as well as being president. And I know we had to keep an eye on the finances constantly. Times are better now. A lot of money came into the city over the last few years. But we want to make sure that money isn't wasted. Thank you.
So, in terms of financing and budgeting in regard to the 3 components that I feel are as important. For food security, I believe that we work with our community in knowing in terms of what funding is available and how we could utilize that in the areas of food security. Health disparities, we work with what's in place. So you're not going to dish out a lot of money. You're thinking about what resources are already in place in the community. So we're looking at the health centers, we're looking at the doctor's offices and the hospitals, and to see how health disparities could be improved. And then you look at your financial budget and think about ways that you can invest in improving even more so. Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, Mass General Hospital, East Boston Neighborhood Health Center have all come into this community and provided services for health disparities. So the issues are real, and in terms of budgeting, I think that you're not always up to spend, but you're up to see what resources are already out there, and then look at the budgeting in terms of that there. In terms of pocket neighborhoods, I think in terms of budgeting and financial burden for that, I think it's well worth it. I think I will be learning the process too in terms of budgeting and how that is rolled out, but just knowing that the funds are available is half the battle. We've secured many funds and hundreds of thousands of dollars for workforce development, scholarships for Chelsea High School students to get to college, COVID initiatives, and also have children in the city, a youth working at these organizations. So totally understand what budgeting and funding looks like on a community organizational level. So I'm sure that it won't be difficult to get on the bus here.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Questions? Councilor Robertson?
Yes. According to the Chelsea City Charter, the city manager and the city council have different roles. What is your understanding of each role?
You're next, Mr. Tweedy. In line. We'll just...
In 1994, I was on the very first city council that implemented the city charter. It was difficult, but we finally defined this as well as we could. The city manager runs the day-to-day operations of the city. I understand that. The city council sets policy. When I was on the city council, I was able to work well with Mr. Sandegate and Mr. Rash. I understood what our role was. They understood I hope they understood what theirs. If there was a problem that needed day-to-day, I wouldn't go knocking on the doors of department heads. I wouldn't get involved in day-to-day operations. I would work through the city manager's office to see if we could solve a problem. But the roles are well defined, and those roles will work best if the city manager is allowed to do his job and the city council is allowed to do their job. When we set policy, he should follow it, but we shouldn't try to get involved into the day-to-day operations of the city, and that's just not our job.
Okay, you had a lot of time left. Okay. So,
Which
Ms.
one? I don't know which
Cromwell-
one of us is
No,
next.
no. Ms. Cromwell is next.
Okay.
So the difference between the city manager and the city
City council.
I think that they work together hand in hand. I think you cannot, one cannot do their job without the other. I think the city manager comes to the city council for ideas, for support, and what he needs to be carried out. And I think the city council as a body responds to the city manager and supports his initiatives and following through. I believe that the city manager is there every day, right? He's in his office, he's got this great salary, he's there, and he's available to the city. So it goes beyond the council. Folks can come to the city manager, the community can walk into his door and he is there. Unlike the city council, who it's meeting set up and it's more procedural to come before the city council and have a conversation or speak of a concern. So I think they work together and they can't do it apart. If they did, then a city wouldn't run as healthy as it should. But I believe that the city council works as a body and they help the city manager to govern the city.
Mr. Heidelberg.
And I think my answers on this one sound exactly like Stan's because I think he taught me the answers a long time ago. So, it doesn't sound that different anymore. But, I do believe very much in our form of government, and I agree. City manager runs the day-to-day operations of the city. Council sets policy. City manager runs through the administrative code, sets out and defines the positions and roles within the city, and I believe the city functions most cleanly and most appropriately when we stick to those lines and operate the way we're supposed to under the charter. So,
Thank you. That's it? Okay.
did I pass?
Councilor
Thank you for that.
Mendez?
This is fine, honestly.
Speak in the mic, please, Councilor
Sorry.
Melinda.
How do you envision yourself working in the intersectionality between listening and representing our community members, everyone, regardless of where they come from, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, etc., and ensuring everyone is meaningfully involved in the decision-making processes that impact their lives? Thank you.
It's going to be Mrs. Cromwell.
Oh, I'm first.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard. I'm trying to keep it up by focusing.
I think, if I'm understanding your question, what would I say? How would I?
Are you asking me? What would you
Yeah.
say?
No,
I'm sorry.
not what would I say, or the intersectionality you're asking? Okay, I think that as a representative of this council, I would basically strive to serve our whole community, which is all groups, races, ethnicity, and the matter in that telling folks todos merecen cuidado especial, right? And that means I would say that everyone can have an opportunity to speak, everyone can be heard, and as a body, and we won't not only focus on economic development, but also to focus on stabilization of residents, to let them know that we function as a unit in hearing all their concerns. So the intersectionality, I would encourage them and educate them in terms of what government looks like here, how accessible it is, how you can come to the city hall and find out information, how you can reach out to the council and get answers, that they're not alone out there. So folks coming in new and old, that I think lots of people, especially in the Black community, are feeling like certain things aren't accessible to them. How do I get information? Where do I go? So just being that person, triumphing on the council side, but also advocating on the residential side.
Okay. Mr. Heidelberg.
Sure. So this is one that probably starts with fairly deep personal things. It's kind of a deep well when you start getting into my own personal stuff. But, I'm a Quaker, and that's a little bit odd in a lot of ways. We very much believe in listening, and if you've ever watched a Quaker meeting on Zoom, which is a little bit quiet, we spend a lot of time listening and trying to hear what people are saying. And that runs very deeply for me. That's a very fundamental part of my belief system. The next piece of that is you have to be available to hear people. So I certainly know the people I know, as we all do, but there's also a lot of people I don't know, and their voices matter too. So if you look my name up online, you'll find my cell phone in 3 seconds. I answer it, I return all my calls. I kind of believe in that classic old school, I owe you my time if I'm in this position, and so we'll listen, we'll figure it out. I'll tell you what I actually think. We may or may not agree, but at least you'll know what I'm saying, So I think it starts from that communication. I've always believed that. I believe that's where my time has to go, because that's really the role. If I'm not here to represent the people who want their voice out there, who am I here to represent, So that's where it starts for me, and then trying to listen to that and make sense of it and do what helps people.
Okay. I just want you folks to know I'm just actually contacting the sound room to make sure it's clear and it's because we did get a call. So I just want to make sure, Mr. Tweedy.
Thank you. If I understood the question correctly, I think that government should be transparent at all times, that sunlight is the greatest disinfectant for poor government, for corruption. I know as a former city councilor, I listened. I think I listened well. You may not agree with me. You may not agree with some of the votes I make, but I certainly understood both sides. One of the things, it's so easy if you're closed-minded and you just make up your mind and just stick with it. That's so easy. Sometimes it's a blessing, sometimes it's a curse. But I see both sides of most issues and then make a decision on the information I have, and I do it to the best of my ability. I know in the old Board of Aldermen, we didn't have public speaking. I was a great proponent of having the public come up and speak. And over the years, we've had many speakers. Sometimes they come up and lambaste us. Sometimes they come up and praise us. But we listened. And I think it's vital that you listen. And the final thing I have to say is, it's like legislation can be like a large blanket. Good legislation is like a warm, well-kept blanket. It covers everybody. If we do something on the city council that helps the entire city, it helps everybody in the city, not just this group, that group, or this group. And that's the aim. English political philosopher Jeremy Bentham once said, "What is the best law? What is the greatest law? The greatest law is a law that does the most good for the most people."
Thank you. Okay. Sound check room just want us to continue to speak into the mic, the councilors and the candidates. Okay. Any questions over here? No questions? Councilor Garcia, Tadano.
Good evening. Thank you guys for taking this time out. I know this is going to be hard on all of us, but mine is going to be a little fun. If we gave you $1 million, where would those funds go and why? Simple.
So I've been a part of organizations that have had to solve this problem a number of times, and I hate to say it, but the honest answer is it would go in a holding tank while we had a lot of meetings, okay? And I actually really believe that's the answer. I don't believe the right answer is, oh, let me tell you, here's my idea for what our $1 million ought to do. The answer is, wow, we have an opportunity to do something significant here. Let's take the time. Let's make sure that what we choose to do with it is responsible, benefits as many people as possible, and has the greatest impact. And that's not a short process. So I know it's a little bit of a vague answer, but I actually believe the process comes first, and it starts with listening to people, it starts with spending the time on it, and then the goal in the end is to use whatever form that bonus money, let's call it, takes to go out there and help people. So that's where I come down.
It's an interesting question because as a former city councilor, and when I was on the chairman of the finance committee, there were times when we did have a couple $1 million extra. We were prudent. We spent our money wisely. And what do? We set up stabilization funds. We set up capital improvement funds. We set up rainy day funds. How did that help us? Because by saving that money, we went from a junk bond rating where we might pay 5% to bond out an issue to getting an A+ rating from Moody's and Standard & Poor's, which saved us millions and millions and more. So now we have more money to spend. But in a dream world, if they said to me as a councilor, what do you want to do with $1 million? I think the main function of government is to protect the people. So I would like to see, if it was me, I'd like to give everybody a tax rebate. I think we pay too much taxes. If I couldn't do that, I'd like to see a police department that was fully funded a fire department that had modern, up-to-date equipment that could save people, that had thermal imaging cameras. I would like to see our streets and sidewalks. I would like to see more open space. This $1 million don't go as far as it used to. I'd love to give some money to, say, an organization like Green Roots and take some decrepit old vacant lot and make it a lovely park where people can sit there and enjoy it. Make it a passive park. Then next time give them a few and make it an active park. I could spend that money so many ways to help so many people. It's just a funny, but it was a great question.
Thank you. Mrs. Cromwell.
Yeah, both of you gentlemen have wonderful ideas, and I think most of them is what we did with getting funding in the city in terms of focusing on public safety and street improvement and the bike lane and many other projects that you had mentioned. But I would also focus on, as Brian had said, and not spending it right away. So we had probably about 6 to 8 months with APA meetings, month after month, thinking about how we wanted to spend the funding that was coming in. And it was a community working together and deciding, and it was representative of businesses and organizations and residents coming together to really discuss what that meant and where that money should be dispersed. So just in thinking about the needs of the community and what the community is going through and the barriers, and making sure whatever is put into place is going to be sustainable. Because if it's here today and gone tomorrow, it's pointless to even start the program. So that was key in deciding what we would do with $1 million, let alone $12 million. So just in areas like housing and food security, in the real time, what's really going on today, those issues, and really having hard conversations about what that means and where it needs to be spent. Absolutely. And absolutely working with the nonprofit organizations that are on the ground day to day. And even though we're here, we should be there as well. So definitely just collaborating with the whole community and spending that $1 million. It's gone. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councilor Vito.
Thank you. Someone who came into, I didn't dream as a little girl that I wanted to be a city councilor. I just kind of got called into it. All through this process, I really have tried to not, when I was ranking the candidates, I tried to not focus on people that had either been in office or people that were interested in running office. For me, it was important that the person that sits in the seat is informed by the lived experience from ground below. Too often government comes from top down, and it's not well informed from the streets and what people are really experiencing in these pockets of neighborhoods. So I would like to know, what in the past couple of years have you done to be involved in the community in the now and contributed to this community in a healthy way, in a good way, outside of whatever official roles that you have previously held?
I'm sorry, Mr. Truizi, about to cut you.
Just to repeat from my opening statement, 10 of the greatest years of my life were my last 10 years at working at the Chelsea Soldiers Home. I saw a community that was vastly underserved. I saw veterans who saw some of the most terrible things in life, suffered from post-traumatic stress syndrome, fight drug addiction, fight alcoholism. And when they finally were able to get clean and sober, I worked at a place I was so proud to work at that we gave them 3 square meals a day, a roof over their head. We gave them medical treatment, and we gave them support. We gave them the ability to go on and move forward in life and to lead productive life. It's the proudest service I had. I didn't want to tell my boss at the time, but I actually would have done the job for nothing. I was paid. Don't get me wrong, it was a job. but I would have did it for nothing. And like I said, I tried to say it earlier, but I was running out of time. Councilor Lopez I worked with him for a long time. He's been there so long. He will tell you what a joy it is to meet some of these people, to listen to their stories, and for them to tell you how they got off track and how they're trying to get back on track. So that's one of the things. I understand that you may have a little aversion to somebody who served on a council before and stuff, but don't forget, you have to do the job. So one of the things I'm offering you when I did this is that I can start the job and do it well. I would be replaced, I don't want to say this, but I would be replacing somebody who's been on the council almost as long as I have. Okay?
That's it. Okay. Mrs. Cromwell?
What have we been doing? What have I been doing? And when I say we, because we are the community and we work together, and that's the new day. That's what we're in, the partnership and the collaboration. It starts here, but it extends into the community. So we have been building bridges. That's what we have been doing. From cultural art to Black Lives Matter protests, to COVID initiatives, to workforce development, and much, much more. To instilling a 71-point resolution in areas of public health, housing, safety, and education, which matters in our community. To working with immigrants, to refugees, to veterans, to seniors, to youth, to everybody, and just being inclusive and being intentional. That's what we've been doing. We've been very, very intentional in getting needs met and hearing, what folks are going through and reaching out to our community, the youth, the seniors, the veterans. So basically just being present in real time and forming initiatives that we see as really, a heavy burden on our community, and really focusing in and being intentional to change things, to uplift our community. So we've been doing it and we continue to do it, and it's for the past 8 years, and it hasn't stopped. And it's actually beautiful because it's a joint effort. That's where we are today. It's collaboration, it's partnership with everybody. So it takes all hands on deck, and as I said before, you know what, we came in different boats, but we are on the same ship. We really, really are. So that's what our focus has been. It has been intentional, and it has been successful. Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess, Councilor Judy, would you like a question? No? Okay. So I'm going to ask her. I'm sorry?
Councilor Heidelberg has not answered.
Oh, you didn't get, okay, I'm sorry.
No, so my answer is more,
Thank you, Councilor.
more on the personal side. It's just stage of life. I've got 2 kids who are teenagers. Pretty much all my energy goes into the kids, So I have 2 daughters. They're very strong. They're very dynamic. They got a lot of people running through my house, and I'm doing all kinds of stuff I didn't necessarily plan on. So I'm taking kids back to their house. I've got 5 bikes under my porch because a couple of them didn't have bikes, and my dog starts barking, and I go out, and there's 3 kids. Oh, just be safe, okay? Because they're borrowing the bikes, and they rode to New Hampshire. Well, all I'm saying is most of my personal energy runs through my kids and has for the past couple of years, and I believe that's appropriate, and it also leads you into places you hadn't really planned on. So, yeah, I wound up. One of the kids is trying to find his way onto an intramural wrestling team, and he doesn't know how to wrestle, and he's scared he's going to be kicked off the wrestling team before he even gets to join. So I'm up in his house. I'm sore. This is a couple nights ago. I'm up there, I wrestled in high school, right? And I wasn't that good at it in high school, okay? So I'm up there, teaching a kid how to throw someone, It's where things go,
That'll help you in city council.
Okay? So, but that's where the time's going.
So I have a question. What is your approach to controversy and complicated issues? What is your approach to complicated and controversial issues? Yes.
Well, thank goodness I have a degree in psychology, right? And I am a therapist by nature, so and a nurse of youth for many, many years. So I think my approach to controversy and controversial
and complicated issues.
And complicated
issues. Yeah,
issues.
just how would you handle them?
Yeah, I think, I believe you can't
They happen
react.
on the city council at times, so I just want you to know.
Right. I take nothing personal
Okay.
when it's out there, and you have to remember who's bringing it to you, and you have to validate where it's coming from. So you never undermine or dismiss or diminish anything that's coming from anybody, because when you do that, you devalue that person or that member of your community. So you basically hear them, right? You do not react, but you hear them and you be present for them, because after all, we are here for our constituents. So of course, many of them will come with concerns, and that might be controversial, but I think it's most important to have a listening ear, to be supportive, and to basically see through the process, however way that means for that person. I think when you personalize it, it blocks your effectiveness in how you're going to respond to the person or the issue. So it's very important, and I do it in my personal life and my professional life amongst my organization, just more to be a listener and to be to empower that person, bringing forth whatever they do, because nobody knows what they're coming from or where they've been. So always remember that, to respect and hear before you respond.
Thank you. Mr. Heidelberg.
So again, I think, same answer. Many of my answers, you'll notice, are process-based. Maybe that's just how I think, but I think you listen first, you try to meet and figure out what you can do, you try to take action that serves as best as you can the greater good. So that's essentially the same answer you just gave. Maybe the only different thing I can contribute is that when thinking about it in the context of council, public controversy comes in different forms. I think you have to start with your own personal integrity and not having anything to hide or be afraid of, and so then you try to act with the public's best interests in mind, and you try to do those things that serve the public. And then when something comes up that causes controversy, you try to work with people to, again, serve the public's best interest. That's where everything has to come from. So.
Thank you. Mr. Chiweezy.
When you're talking about complicated and controversial issues, just bring up one little quick thing. I remember in 1999 when the president at the time was we had 6 votes for Jay Ash, 5 votes for another guy. He was going through all kinds of heck. So you know it when it gets controversial and when it gets complicated. So I know where this question's coming from. But I find that knowledge is the key to wisdom. And if you want to make a wise choice, it's important that you know the issue as well as you can. I'm not going to be swayed anytime, and I never was, by a room full of people yelling and screaming. I look at the facts, I listen to both sides, I try to figure out what is best for the city of Chelsea. I never took a vote in this city council where my first question was, what is best for this community? So if the issue is complicated, and sometimes a financial issue could be complicated, I might go to the auditor and ask him to explain it to me. I might go to the treasurer. I might go to the city manager and say, can you give me a little input or a little background on this? But when all is said and done, know the issue, know both sides, pro, con, what they have to say, what the other group has to say, and then make a decision, but make it with that decision that's within the best interest of the city.
Thank you. So, at this point, all council members have had a question. You have answered them all. We're going to, Mr. Councilor.
Make a small request. Can we take a 2-minute recess?
Yeah, we're going to do that.
Beautiful.
That's what we're going to do.
Thank you.
So, We're going to take a 3-minute break. I'm going to give you an opportunity if you like to get a drink of water, stretch, and we're going to come back. We're going to ask that you all three prepare yourself for the closing remarks, which would be up to 2 minutes. Okay? All right? Thank you, and we'll take a 3-minute break.
Thank you.
1 minute, councilors, we're gonna come back. 1 minute, please. 1 minute. 1 minute, councilors.
Where's Roy at the World Cup?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I went down to talk to him
yeah,
and, about this mitigation thing.
yeah, yeah.
To see where we were with it.
I told Tom, yeah, we gotta.
Tom said he updated me.
I know who did. Tom?
Are we voting today?
Huh?
We're voting today?
We're voting today.
Okay.
We're gonna vote today.
And what's the procedure for
The
voting?
procedure now, we'll have nominations for appointment to positions. So someone will nominate, someone will second, we put the name on.
Okay.
Then, if no one else nominates anyone else, we'll close nominations.
So
But
we
if
have to
you've got two names before you, you have, when I do the roll call, you call out the name you want.
I think all of, yeah.
So anyway, I talked to Tom, and he said that was at the legislature, but that was only.
30-second, councilors.
Yeah, that was only a draft at the legislature. The governor
Yeah.
signed it. That gave us permission now to go forward and do it.
Yeah,
So don't rush it. Wait on it.
yeah. With the mitigated thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna be a tough vote. I think he's gonna end up winning.
Yes, I do too.
Yeah.
But it's I think all three are
Yeah. I think I do as well.
I just want to say you did a great job tonight.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm being totally.
Thank you. I appreciate it, councilor. Yeah, it's not easy.
I know it's.
I've been, yeah.
I know it's not, but you're doing a good job.
Thank you. Councilors. Back to order, please. Councilors, please. Public, please come to order. Thank you. Councilors, please take your seats.
We're gonna give 2-minute closing, and then we'll go into nominations.
All councilors present.
Just doing this, and we don't want to do.
Councilors. Is he around? Did he leave?
He didn't leave, but he'll be back.
Okay. We got to give the council another moment to come back, and we're going to ask the candidates if you prepare yourself for your closing statement. Just want to give our colleague opportunity to hear the closing statements. Did he leave?
His glasses are still here.
Hope he didn't leave.
Didn't say anything.
Did he leave?
Didn't say anything.
Oh, here he comes. Good.
Okay. All set.
Okay, so we're going to now ask that first our candidates to ready themselves for your closing remarks, however you want it to be closed. This guy got me. He's telling me to put my hand up, so don't blame me. I'm just put my hand up. We're going to ask, who's first? Who's first?
I don't remember who left off. Who led off the last
We'll go.
Last question, I don't remember.
Yeah. So
First question was
she gave the opening statement, so we'll go from Mr. Tweezy. Mr. Tweezy, we'll ask you if you can give us your closing remark. Hold on, I want to make sure that you have all your time.
Go ahead.
What
You
do we
ready?
get, 3 minutes?
No.
2
Ready to go?
And how long do we get?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Yeah. Take your time. I mean, we don't,
Okay.
yeah.
Sometimes it's difficult to talk about yourself. So in 2006, I received the All Chelsea Lifetime Achievement Award. It was selected by some city officials, but there were members of the business community, there were members of heads of the human service divisions within the city, there were some senior citizens, and there was some youth that were on this committee. This is what they said, so it makes it easier. Stanley Troisi embodies the very best of altruism in an elected official. Of all the city councilors, and before them the Board of Aldermen, to serve in this city, none have conducted themselves in a more professional manner and had the steadying influence of focused and responsible leadership as has Stan. He prides himself on being highly informed about the details of each and every matter before the council, no matter how minute. As important, he holds only one government official, himself, to a higher standard than he expects from the city's public servants. I'm going to skip a paragraph. Perhaps Stan's most significant contributions have been an ardent supporter of rules and being a great watchdog when it comes to finances and administration. He co-authored the rules of the order for the council and that the council has operated under. He has managed the charter review process. He sponsored both extensions of the BU-Chelsea partnership. He has led council initiatives to hire and evaluate both city managers. He has been a central figure in the budgeting and auditing processes. He developed a local program to provide owner-occupants with residential exemptions on property taxes that saves homeowners hundreds of dollars annually. His single stated goal is to move his beloved community forward through an apolitical process which stresses
1 minute.
what you know, not who you know. His own actions have embodied just that. Out in the community, he is a steady representative of his constituency. Stan's advocacy for an annual capital improvement program reflects his belief that municipal government must lead in the neighborhood investments so that others will follow. Since 1 minute, I'm going to go. Stan is a veteran.
30 seconds.
Stan is a veteran who returns a great deal to the local veteran community. He is deeply engaged in local civic organizations. He is a proud family man, an appreciative son, a loving husband, and a devoted father. Stan is also a loyal friend. He grew up in Chelsea, served the community with great distinction, and looks forward to spending the rest of his life in the only community that has ever mattered. Stan is guided by a second-grade poem that he said while he was in parochial school every day after lunch. When a
Councilor,
task is once begun,
Mr.
never
Teresi.
leave it till it's done.
Mr.
Be the
Teresi.
matter great or small, do it right or not at all.
Thank you, Mr. Teresi. And I'll just let the other remaining candidates know we have showed some leniency and we've given the councilors 3 minutes. So you had a full 3 minutes. So we're timing you. Thank you. Council, Madam Cromwell, Joan.
In closing,
Okay.
I do not make light of the great work you do to serve us. Thank you. You do this in addition to your regular work and demands of your family. Thank you again. I can tell you, I believe my life experience in the city I call home have especially prepared me tonight. Who have especially prepared me well to serve at large council position better than the two gentlemen. I want to say I may be new to the council if selected, but I'm not new to the community. I've been boots on ground. I've been the village to raise a family, along with other community members. I know that within the last year, not 10 years ago, not 20 years ago, within the last year, I have secured allocations over $300,000 for targeted initiatives, for workforce development, for COVID initiatives, working with the council and the city manager for hiring not one DEI officer, but 2. This is our community. This is where we are today, not the year 2000, not the year 2015, today. So also want to know that I just received a humanitarian award. And the award really meant nothing. The people that was there meant everything. So it wasn't about me, it was about service to community. It's about allocation and funding this position, this at-large seat, but at the end of the day, it's about our constituents, our community, and who we serve. And I just want to really speak to, in terms of funding and allocation, we've done that, we do that, we continue to do that, we
1 minute.
continue to build. So I just want to emphasize that, and basically, even working with the police in the community and advocating, as Mr. Teresa had said, like for funding for the police and safety, it's in there, it's in the resolutions. Chief Houghton, with Faith in Blue, just it's limitless in terms of the relationships that are established in the community, because there's so many different moving parts that we all have to kind of move in one accord. So I basically wanted to mention that, but also want to say thank you again, and thank you to Mr. Teresa and Mr. Hadelberg for this process. I respect all of you, and I appreciate your time. Thank you. I have so much more to say about
Thank you.
this.
3 minutes on the nose. 3 minutes on the nose. Mr. Heidelberg, you have 3 minutes.
Sure. And, I think for my closing statement, I really just want to say the things I found myself saying in talking to people here. I don't know that the city goes wrong here. I think that you guys have 3 people who, if I were sitting in your shoes, I would be able to vote for any of the 3 of us and feel good about it. So I think things will work out. And because I believe that, I've tried to spend the time you've given me in answering your questions to try to answer them in a way that I feel like sort of accurately reflects who I am. The reason I've tried to put my time there in my answers is that I believe that one of the important considerations in who you pick is, I think you guys basically need to pick the person you want to work with. And so if I'm right in that, and I've tried to present myself accurately, if you can see me, if you can see the 3 of us, then with the number of you here, I'm sure the decision will be the right one, whichever way it goes. And I'm glad to serve if asked. I look forward to doing it if asked. And I look forward to seeing what the person you pick will do if I'm not asked. So I look forward to the answer, and would look forward to playing the role if asked to.
Okay. All right. That's the end of the official interview of the 3 finalist candidates to fill the vacancy for the Councilor at Large position. That portion. That portion is done. Portion number 4 on the floor tonight will be nomination and appointment of the position of Councilor at Large. Do we have any nominations from the floor?
Joan Cromwell to fill the vacancy of the at-large council seat.
Joan Cromwell. Second by Enio Lopez. There be another nomination on the floor to fill the vacancy of position of Councilor at Large.
Any more?
I'll nominate Stan Troisi.
Second. Second by Todd Taylor, nominated by Leo Robinson, Councilor. Any other nominations on the floor?
I nominate Brian Heidelberg.
Councilor Tati Garcia nominates Councilor Brian Heidelberg. Is there a second of the motion? Second of that motion is by Melinda Vega. See no more, go ahead, Mr. Clerk. See no more candidates to be nominated. Motion goes to be closed for the office. All 3 candidates are nominated and solely duly second. The only thing we have to do
When
now.
I call your name, you will call the name of the candidate you want to be the new elected councilor, okay?
I'm sorry,
And you
I'm
need
sorry.
6 votes
Yeah,
required.
okay, can you explain that, or you'd like me to
Right,
explain?
6 votes are
So,
required.
so by statute of charter, the majority of the vote has to be conceived here for you to be not appointed. So we have 10 councilors here tonight. You will need 6 votes to be seated as councilor at large. Is that correct, Mr. Clerk?
So by name, Councilor Recupero,
Before I
Councilor, we have voting on the
yeah,
floor.
it's very hard for me to decide because all 3 of
Councilor,
you are very
Councilor,
qualified.
you have to vote.
I have to vote?
Yeah.
Okay, Joan Cromwell.
Councilor Teneri Garcia,
Brian Heidelberg.
Councilor Robinson,
Stan Troisi.
Councilor Taylor,
Stan Teresi.
Councilor Lopez,
John Cromwell.
Councilor Melinda Vega,
Brian Heidelberg.
Councilor Brown,
Brian Heidelberg,
Councilor Vido,
Joan Cromwell.
Councilor De Jesus,
Brian Heidelberg?
Councilor Judy Garcia,
Brian Heidelberg.
okay. So for Joan Cromwell, we have 1, 2, 3. For Council, for Stanley Parisi, we have 1, 2, 2. And for Brian Heidelberg, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. You don't have a council-elect as of yet. So nominations will continue if you want. It's up to you, Mr. President.
Can I make a motion to eliminate the candidate with the least amount of votes?
the candidate with they was nominated.
Because there was 3 and 2,
You
right?
can't.
The procedure would be you would have another ballot.
Yeah, you couldn't have
Okay,
elimination.
no, I wasn't sure,
Yeah.
okay.
So nominations are
We
open
can-
again.
We can open nominations
Point
again.
of information. So so based on the numbers, if there's another tie, what happens?
No one
It
elected.
just goes until you get 6, or if you,
We could actually call another special meeting, and we can meet we can adjourn.
We stay here until it's done.
Yeah.
You don't stay here. You can,
we do.
stay
no, you
until
don't.
it's done.
You don't.
well, it's up to them.
You don't have to, if you can't make it happen, you just can't stay here. We didn't do it with the city manager's vote, and we haven't done it in the past. So you can adjourn a meeting, that's Robert's rule of law. You can adjourn a meeting and have it on the following.
Until such time we name somebody tonight.
We can have another vote, and we can have as many votes if you like tonight. But if you don't have 5-5 tie or the same outcome you have here, you have to leave here at some point.
Can we have any discussion?
Now, this is the,
This is bananas.
are you going to accept nominations?
Yeah. Nominations reopen? Do you have to?
I nominate Joan Cromwell for city council at large.
I'm
Coun-
sorry.
Councilor
Council-
Vido?
hold on. 1 second, we're just trying to see if we have to reopen the nominations or we just take an
You just
initial
said we
vote.
were.
Council, if they want to continue or they don't want to continue. I don't know which is one.
So the procedure is, we have this here, can we take another vote without not
Naturally.
renominating? Yes
No,
or no?
you have to renominate.
Okay, so the clerk said we have to renominate. So
Correct.
Councilor Vido, you have the
Mr.
floor.
Chairman,
just a moment. Let her, she'd already have the floor for a nomination.
This has to do with the procedure.
Jamali Bordeaux.
Point of procedure?
Okay.
What is it?
Do you mind, Councilor?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I know that when we discussed procedure in the subcommittee, it was said, because I think that there is some sort of discussion that does need to be had, that discussion would have to happen in a nominating speech or a seconding speech, correct?
So a
So we
second
can,
round? Yes,
When
yes,
you
you're correct.
nominate, you may
Yes,
also
in the
explain
second
why.
round.
So that way, those of us who are making speeches on behalf of one candidate or another can try to convince our colleagues that
Correct.
that
That's-
their choice is better, and that's how we come up with enough votes to actually seat somebody.
Correct.
Thank you, I appreciate
That's
that.
the second round, that's correct.
Yeah. So Councilor Vido,
Can I speak?
Yes.
Uh,
No,
who'd
let-
you
we have to
nominate?
get a
Who'd you
second,
nominate?
and then you
Joan
can,
Cromwell.
Joan Cromwell?
Oh, wait, I thought,
You could speak.
okay, I can speak now, right? Okay.
I need a second before she's going. Second, okay. Now she
Second by
can,
Leo.
now she,
Leo
Sorry,
Lopez.
Count.
okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
Councilor Damali, you have the floor.
Thank you. So throughout this entire process, I was very clear. I had some really good friends that applied for this position, but I put my city first and what I know about the city. I have been here for 7 years. I have seen some good, I have seen some bad. I've seen really good people, but sometimes just the way that power moves, it kind of just really confuses things. I know that we're going to be okay with whatever candidate is sitting up here on this side of the dais. But for me, it's important to vote for someone that is in community, that is present at whatever meeting you go to, whether it's a city meeting, whether it's in the community, whether it's when justice is smacking us in the face or lack thereof. I voted full transparency when in my ballot. I voted for Joan Cromwell and Gary DeYoung because those are two people that are involved in the community. They're not seeking office. They've never held office before. These are people that show up when it matters. And I voted for Stan Troisi because we need order. Our city is in not good shape. I should not be saying that, but I'm keeping it real. We need to show up here. We need to hold us accountable because we need to be held accountable. And I know that we'll be okay with either one of these candidates, but for me, in my heart, what I know about this community, what I've seen on this side, what I've seen in the streets, and what I know in my heart, and for everyone that's here, I know that we will be best suited with someone like the likes of Joan Cromwell because of the way she shows up when it matters, the way she's inclusive and talks to everybody, the way that she votes where it's not about what her needs are, the way that she speaks, where she's using we statements, that is lost in this community. Everyone's always I, me, I, this. Joan speaks in we's, and that matters. So for me, I am voting for Joan Cromwell for City Council at large because I believe that it's time to have someone that's licensed or certified in psychology to help us push the city forward. Thank you.
Any more nominations?
Any more nominations on the floor? Councilor Robinson nominates Stanley Teresi.
Any second?
And the seconds on it?
Second.
Second by Todd Taylor.
Any more nominations?
Any more nominations on the floor?
Nominate Brian Hadelberg.
Nominates Brian Hadelberg.
Are we not speaking?
They can if they want.
I think
They can if they-
Yeah, but you didn't raise your hand, so.
yeah, he was.
Okay,
He was.
all right, I'm sorry. Okay. You have the floor, Councilor.
Yes. We do have three great candidates here. I've had the opportunity to work with all three. Stan, who grew up in this community, who served on this body, brought a lot to the table. Stan was a guy who looked at the issue from both sides and would make the right decision. He was independent. He didn't lean one way or another for any special interest. And he carried himself with integrity, and he was very independent. That's why I'm supporting Stan Troisi.
Con-
know Joan, I know Mr. Stan, and I served with Brian. It's very hard to choose who you want out of you three. Eventually, one of you is going to get the job. So one of us, or two of us, will have to change and go somewhere down the line and go somewhere else if there's no other choice. Because we're going to have to choose one of you three. All three of you are very capable persons. It's very hard not to choose one of you. But like the old saying is, only one can be the top. The rest. So one of you is going to be, but it's going to be very hard.
I need a
But
second on Mary. I need a second. Melinda?
Okay. Anyone else like to speak? Ms. Garcia.
This has been a very, very hard decision. And it's even tougher because I know all three of you guys, right? And like, I echo what my fellow colleagues say. You guys have all done a phenomenal job, but the city is in bad shape. In terms of, we might not look as organized, and I feel like we need that order. And Joan, I know you will bring it to the table as well, but to have someone that has been here, that to me is important as well, and that's why I chose Brian Heidelberg, because I feel like he will be the organizer in terms of structure and help us with financial budgets, and I know that Joan, you've done an amazing job, boots on the ground, and I see your hard work. But my vote has to go for Brian because of
Thank you, Councilor.
his experience.
For the record, again, Melinda Vega second the nomination. We just asked, again, Councilor, if you can speak into your mic so we can catch everything. Thank you. Councilor De Jesus?
I'll be brief. I just feel like since we're talking so much about transparency that I should say something. And honestly, Joan, I think that you should be running. I think that you should take your vote to the community. The one reason I feel that, and I say that as a sister who's worked with you in the community, not just a sister who's watching you do the work in the community. And my vote tonight goes to Heidelberg. My vote goes to Heidelberg because I know Heidelberg, again, as my sister councilor here mentioned, has the experience of the structure that this council needs because it has been chaos, right? And Heidelberg has already shared that he is willing to help us get through this chaos and make it to this next election. And as I mentioned, I think some of you should be running. I don't think that you should be serving this temporary seat. I think you should be running it and taking it to the street with the people who know the work that you do. My vote continues to go to Heidelberg. I appreciate you standing up and helping us get through this chaos. And that's just it, just a few brief points of why I voted the way I did tonight.
Councilor Garcia, Judith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll say this. This has been incredibly difficult, and it's an incredible night today because there are three great candidates, three lifelong residents of this community who have stood up and who have taken the bold and courageous decision to come here. And let me tell you, it is no small feat to seek appointment for this seat, and especially being grilled by many of us and having to answer questions the way you're doing tonight with no breaks. You had a 3-minute break. In each one, you showed your skill set, you showed your passion, and I agree with my sister in service here, Joan. I've met you for many years, and you were a nurse at Chelsea High. Every time I was sick and I needed that motherly love, you always had that instinct. And I agree with you. I've said it before, and I've said it to other women that I believe are equally as passionate as you are. You should be running for office. And I know that your community will support you and the community will come out and vote for you. And this is incredibly hard because I've been taking notes and my heart has been between you and Brian. And it goes back and forth like a ping pong. And I keep thinking to something that Councilor Vidot said here, we have to put community first. And when I think of community first, I think there's a lot that happens on this side that the community doesn't know about, that it's very difficult. And I agree with you, representation matters, and it truly matters to move legislation, to present ideas that will help us move the needle forward, but having and understanding how the institution works to make that happen
30 seconds, Councilor.
is what's vital right now. And it's 11 months. It's 11 months only, 20 meetings. And right now here, we don't have a clerk. We have an acting president. And we have a lot of back and forth between us because we can't figure out the structure of how to even run a meeting. So I think right now what we need is someone who could bring that structure. And that's why, and that's the only reason why I'm seeing this as that vote. And my vote will be for Hatterberg.
Thank you, Councilor. Anyone else like to speak? Anyone else like to speak? Okay, Mr. Clerk, I ask you to take another roll call.
By name, Councilor Recupero? Councilor Teneri Garcia?
Brian Hattelberg.
Councilor Robinson?
Stan Troisi.
Councilor Taylor?
Stan Teresi.
Councilor Lopez?
John Cromwell.
Councilor Melinda Vega?
Brian Hattelberg.
Councilor Brown?
Brian Hattelberg.
Councilor Vido?
Joan Cromwell.
Councilor De Jesus?
Brian Hattelberg.
And Councilor Judy Garcia.
Brian Hatterberg.
Same vote.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for Brian Hattelberg. 1, 2, 3 for Joan Cromwell. And 2 for Stanley Troisi. 2.
Mr. Clerk, what's
5, 3, and 2.
same thing?
Yeah.
Okay. The body's going to take a 5-minute rest.
Okay.
All right. will hurt. Yeah. We're getting, woo. Councilors? Let's make it happen. All right, councilors, we're going to go back. Try it again. Nominations will be going back on the floor.
I nominate Joe Cromwell.
I'm sorry, just want to make sure everyone's here, Councilor.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilor Vito nominates Joan Cromwell. Second?
I'll second that.
Second by Councilor Lopez. Any more nominations on the floor?
I nominate Brian Hattelberg.
Garcia nominates Brian Hattelberg.
No.
Second that by Melinda Vega. Any more nominations on the floor?
Yeah, Stan Troisi.
Councilor Robinson nominates Stanley Truizi.
Second.
Second by Todd Taylor. Any discussion?
Sure. I've been here before. I just want to be clear that I know that we're in good hands with either of these candidates. Joan, I admire you for your working community. Brian Hattelberg, I remember watching you in meetings before I ran where you were the chair of finance, and you would come and you would read every order that came before us so that the public knew what was going on, and I admire your transparency. Mr. Troisi, I admire your love of process, and we really do need a registered parliamentarian on the city council. Ideally, I would hope that as our clerk retires, that you would consider that position because we would really need you. Never say never. My point is that I know that we'll be well suited with any one of these three candidates. I remain steadfast in my support of Joan Cromwell because I don't necessarily think that the leadership that we've always known in politics always needs to look the same. I had a different path to leadership. And some of us, didn't study political science and didn't even know what Robert's Rules of Orders were before we even got into the council. There's a lot of issues in our community that are plaguing us. And Joan Cromwell has been at the front lines during COVID, doing vaccines, organizing marches in the community, advocating. And not to undermine the work that the other two gentlemen have contributed to our city, but that that's my bread and butter. That's how I got here. That's what I admire. That's who's there. And that's important to me. I will say here that I am extremely concerned of a concentration of power that's happening in the city with a select group of folks that, because they have the numbers, have the power. And that to me is scary because it undermines our democracy and our ability to be able to involve all opinions and all sectors of this community. I will remain true to my word. I could walk in any part of the city and not be embarrassed because I know that I have integrity, and I know that these three people do as well. And I only hope that my colleagues will consider some of those factors that I mentioned. Thank you.
Okay. Any other councilor like to speak? Councilor Recupero Giovanni.
It's a hard decision, but it has to be made if there's no other choice. So if the choice comes and you try very hard to get and doesn't go anywhere, you might as well get it over with and just do it. And that's the end of it. I hate to say it because all three of you are great people and it's sad, but at the end there can only be one. And that's the way it is. It's hard to move. You see how it goes here. So it's hard, but it's going to happen.
Any other councilor like to speak? Councilor Taylor.
So I just want to be on the record as to this vote. I think all three of you are fantastic. And I know all three of you, and I've had great conversations with all of you, and I really do believe, and I'm not just up here saying this, so most of you know I don't say anything unless I mean it. Whoever we get is going to be good, and I believe that. So one of the things that I thought was very important, and I in the subcommittee, the way I voted was that I wanted someone who, because we have a relatively inexperienced council, I wanted somebody with experience as a councilor. And I think I'm going to stay with that. And let me just tell you how difficult this decision really is. It is very difficult because I think all three of you bring something a little bit different to the table. And if it's not in the cards for one person, then you go to someone else and see who the compromise candidate is. So, I just want to say on the record how much I appreciate all of you coming forward and going through this process. And I know it wasn't the most smooth process or whatever it is, but I appreciate all of you. And I agree with my colleague who said that some of you should be running. And I second that. And what's more is that I'll support you if you do. So, I just wanted to say all those things, that you're all fantastic. I think that any one of you are going to be qualified, but we do have to make a choice. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors? Any other councilors like to speak? We'll move into voting. Mr. Clerk, will you take a roll call, please?
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Councilor Recupero?
Brian Heidelberg.
Councilor Teneri Garcia?
Brian Hatterberg.
Councilor Robinson?
Joe Cromwell.
Councilor Taylor?
Brian Heidelberg.
Councilor Lopez?
John Cromwell.
Councilor Melinda Vega?
Brian Heidelberg.
Councilor Brown?
Brian Heidelberg.
Councilor Vido?
Joan Cromwell.
Councilor De Jesus?
Brian Heidelberg.
And Councilor Judy Garcia.
Brian Hatterberg.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for Brian Heidelberg.
What's the other final count?
1, 2, 3, and 0.
Okay. Thank you.
Brian Heidelberg is officially nominated for and fill a position.
Through the chair.
Thank you all candidates for, excuse me, Councilor. Thank you all candidates for your participation. Thank you for your willingness to be a part of this body. Brian Heidelberg, congratulations on being selected. Brian Heidelberg, congratulations on being selected. We need you to do a few things with our city clerk. We also, per our charter, have to make sure that a query review is done and passed on your behalf. But we'd have to check in with the clerk. As of Friday, it was not done, and we'll make sure that you get sworn in as soon as possible. Thank you all for being here and appreciate it. Councilor Robertson, you got a question? Or
Yeah, I'd ask that we make the vote unanimous.
if you want, I mean, people don't, I mean,
It's the right thing to do.
If the council members feel we can make the vote
Recupero.
unanimous, we can vote. You just had an opportunity to do it.
Councilor Recupero.
Councilor Recupero.
Recupero. What's up? Come back.
No.
Councilor, so there's a motion on the floor by Councilor Robinson to make the vote unanimous.
All right, so make it unanimous.
But you have to be,
Roll call.
Yeah. Let's make sure all the councilors here. We're gonna have Councilor Vito, we're gonna have a roll call on to make it.
I'm making
unanimous.
Okay,
it uni-
all right.
okay.
Sorry, I'll wait.
Okay.
Councilor Recupero?
Yeah.
Councilor Teneri?
Wait a minute, who did you vote for?
Yes.
Say Brian
Okay,
Hubbard.
yes.
Yes, okay.
Brian Ottoberg.
You don't have to say his name. It's
have to say it,
unanimous
yes.
vote. The
Oh, I
motion
don't
is
know.
unanimous.
I can't hear.
Councilor Teneri
Yes.
Garcia? Yes. Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilor Lopez?
Yes.
Councilor Vega Maldonado?
Yes.
Councilor Brown?
Yes,
Councilor Vido?
Yes.
Councilor De Jesus?
Yes.
And Councilor Judy Garcia?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
can I say a public announcement?
I'm sorry, Councilor, I didn't hear you.
A public announcement?
Public, if you got a public
Yeah,
announcement,
I'm
yes.
asking if I can because
Yes.
it's on the agenda.
Yes, go ahead, we're here.
Okay, because I know we're about to close, but I don't want us to close without mentioning the 3-year-old boy that lost his life today in Chelsea, or mentioning the DPW worker that was injured today, Eber Rivera. I know he's home resting, had a knee injury. I also want to, I should have done this first, but first I want to wish a happy birthday to Jadu Memba. While Joan Cromwell was sitting here trying to become at-large, she was missing a get-together with her family and some of the compromises that we as moms often make. So I do, before we leave, want to make sure that we do have a moment of silence for that 3-year-old and that we acknowledge and send our healing wishes to Eber Rivera
Yes.
from DPW.
Thank you. Anyone else have a moment of silence or an announcement? Okay, thank you. Have a moment of silence, please. Thank you.